Good morning, everybody. It's the 1st of September, and we're at Found Gallery, and I have two artists here who are part of the Welsh Group exhibition 2020, Gerda Roper and Hiley Harris, who are here to have a conversation about their work and to interrogate each other a little bit about what they've done for this exhibition and their work in general. So over to you, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I must point out that Sue is the chair of the Welsh Group, so I have to be rather deferential now talking to her. And I've been persistently fascinated by Sue's work, which I think you can see here and here. And there always seems to be a very simple use of materials. Could you speak a little about that?
Simple use of material. It doesn't always seem simple when I'm doing them.
Right.
But I try and make it look simple once I've done it. You know, that it's been done without sort of a lot of agony and things, which is what it has often been done with. And these ones, this is an oxidised sterling silver, and different thicknesses, and some I've drawn down so that they're square as well, so you get the light hitting it in different ways, and it's got a bit of copper in it. But I initially was going to do them in copper, and I just struggled, it wasn't right. So the material has to be right for the project, it has to be the right sort of size. I think the whole thing is governed by that material,
And
really.
this was inspired by a visit to some trees?
Well, I've been doing a big project for a couple of years in the woods here in Brecon, in Priory Groves, drawing the trees, and I've made paper trees, woven paper trees. And then we were in Shetland, and you start thinking, what's underneath all that peat? You know, there was once trees here, and there was, and it's living, and I just want to, but these are more to do with sort of growth. You know, you need roots to have trees, but you can also have the remains of roots under the ground.
Yes, but that might have been their inspiration, but they have a completely different feel about moving out and taking space up, don't they?
Yes, and they do, and they take on their own sort of life. And although these are very stylised, you know, they will have the same number of pieces coming out, 3 pieces. So it's a sort of.
And is this? I'm just thinking because I know they were hung up higher before, but then it's difficult to see. But at the same time now, ideally, how would you ideally exhibit these? Very nice.
Well, these do change in different lights, don't they? And here looking at it from this angle, we can see the window, and I think you're better looking from the other angle when you get where punches really against the white wall.
Yeah.
So I guess ideally in white, but I've never really managed to show them like that. You know, any of these root ones.
Right.
Before I've either had them in a window, or when we had some bigger ones in the
I know with
theatre.
I did. But I loved those. They were within space. Yes.
Yeah.
These are too. But I know Edmund Duval had a curved white wall to hang his things in.
To put his pots in?
Yes.
Yes, he's got one in the National Museum of Wales.
Yeah, and when he had a big show in Remain, he did. But I wondered whether this is going to lead to you having to think more about an installation to accompany
Well,
them.
yes, the one in the theatre was an installation, actually. Yes, and I do like that sort of installation idea. But then they would work with other of this series. Yes.
And you originally started as a textile artist, didn't you?
Well, no, originally I studied fine art and did print believe it or not. in Australia. And then I learnt to weave, and I never think of myself as a textile artist. I'm either a weaver.
Right.
Yes.
So this weaving, do you
This
think
isn't
that
weaving at all.
No, but it informs this, or?
It does it. Yes.
Come on,
I
tell
think
me.
partly about the structure of the background. I mean, it's drawn.
Right.
The bottom one, the black one, is drawn with a graphite pencil, just like I tried lots of pencils to get what I wanted, and then done with charcoal on the top. So you get that grid-like feeling that you get with as a weaver. You know, really interesting. And then it's got threads coming out, which are a paper yarn. And talking about the yarns, the materials that I use, then it's not reinforced at all. They hold out like that. I've knotted them in at the back to another thread. But they couldn't have been longer. I wouldn't have been able to do them, say, 2 or 3 inches, because they would drop. Yeah, so it's just getting that critical size.
And was this was inspired by
lockdown?
Really?
It was inspired by. I had this vision. You know, you get all these crosses on the ground.
About 2 meters. Yes, I must. Yeah, sorry.
You know, we've got to stand at our 2 meters apart. So it's simply, and in fact, it's a scale of 1 centimetre to a metre, even.
Oh yes.
So you know, these are sort of represented figures, but then we don't stand at our 2 metres, do we? Because we move around a bit. You know, it's very. But I felt we were at one time thinking we'd be regimented there. Yeah. And the yarn has actually been. I've rediscovered it. I wouldn't say I found it. I knew it was in my studio somewhere. Yeah. I had a big sword out in my studio, and it's little bits that I dip-dyed in indigo a long time ago, so you've got a little bit of blue on the end of each.
Yes, spaced apart. Yes, that on closer inspection, that absolutely changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it changes as you move.
Yes, lovely. When you're back off it, it looks very minimalist, white on white.
It is.
And then as you get closer, just the tips.
Yeah. And if you move from side to side,
then it becomes more three-dimensional. They're very gentle, lovely works. You know Agnes Martin?
Oh, I love her work.
Talks about the classicism of simple abstract work. That it's not telling you anything. It's just there for you to use almost as a sort of thought form or a springboard to ideas. Would you agree?
Yes, I do, and I often sort of revert to that. And these sort of more expressionist works like this are much newer and started when I went back to life drawing about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And now I draw a lot in the landscape. I draw instead of taking photographs. Really.
Good.
And then get more. So I really try to abstract all the time, but that's sometimes really difficult.
Yes.
But you're not an abstract painter at all, are you? You're figurative.
Yes.
And as a weaver, it's really interesting that you have this love of fabric and dresses.
Well, I have a love of fabric because simply I love all the patterning on it.
Yeah, and I like the structure of it.
You see, I'm crazy. A lot of my paintings have got. Well,
so tell me about these. The
watercolour ones. Yes.
Yes. The watercolours.
The watercolours are really about. I went to Russia, and we went to the Hermitage, and inside the Hermitage they had all these garments from the Tsarina, and apparently she had a new dress every day.
Wow.
That's my idea of heaven. So what I wanted to do here was it's a little story, and these are parts of it about the Tsarina and her dresses. And so at first I thought it was heavenly, and then I thought it must be quite tiring because you'd become fond of garments, but you couldn't. So in this one, this is the Tsarina with her crown on, and some minion is saying, "Do you like this fabric?" But then, against the whole of this palace that she lived in, there were always these absolutely shimmering tapestries and beautiful things. So I love pattern. I think pattern is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this pattern.
Well, I think pattern has a metaphor for consistency, and I think we respond to consistency. We like it. It's security. So I quite often use pattern. And this one is there's a beautiful little boat in a painting which is of Saint Anthony stilling the storm in the Ashmolean in Oxford. and I loved it, so I appropriated it. So it's supposed to be the boat that's bringing the silk to the princess, etc.
From the east. But tell me, the boat though, because I read somewhere about a vessel
Yeah.
is very symbolic, and it's
Oh yes.
you use this, so I wanted you to talk
no,
about that.
well, I quite like it. For example, a bridge would be, it would be a device for you to get from one side of the road to the other, or one side of the river to the other. But metaphorically, you would be using the bridge as a concept of moving from one state to another. So I like the twist on metaphors.
Yeah.
So, and a boat, really, you know, there's loads of metaphors to be all at sea, you know, row your own boat, paddling your own canoe, all those kind of things. About, and really, I mean, I'm terrified of going in boats because I can't swim very well. But really, once you're in a boat, you know, if wild weather comes up, you've had it.
Well, that's true. They
Mind you,
do say it's worse than being
the
in a
motorways feel a bit like that.
It's worse than being in a prison, isn't it? Because you've got no escape.
No.
It's
The only way is out. Yes.
Yes, and it's the only one in this of these. It hasn't got a figure in it.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
And it works so well with these others.
Yes. Well, there's a few in it. There's a few
Oh, is there a few
in
figures
the
there?
series now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And then these are more about people watching. So, you know, for example, we were talking about the time people spend getting dressed. I was thinking of the Tsarina. And I love watching people looking at clothes or looking at jewellery, because women actually spend a lot of time looking at jewellery. And I covet most jewellery. I'm not wearing any today.
But you've got earrings.
Oh yes, that's right. But you know, you do. I just like the shall I buy this, shan't I? And then also how people kind of see each other, but they pass by, but they note each other. So those were supposed to be guests at a wedding, but I like their separateness, but they know both aware of each other. And then this one, I think it's actually, I can't remember, it was something the other day about a face upside down, and it struck me as being something strange. When I was a child, I hated seeing faces upside down, but this one I thought was a rather attractive circus act.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because as babies, we probably often see faces upside down, don't we?
Yes.
When people come and look over you.
Yes.
Cot or something.
Yeah.
But this is to do with circuses.
Yes.
But again, even this little figure has a wonderful pattern.
Yes. I think pattern roots one. Yes. Yes. And you like pattern for what reason?
Well, I sort of think of them more as a structure, because I'm a weaver, and you know, if nearly all my clothes are woven, they're not sort of printed textiles.
I
see that very
things like
things.
taffeta and brocade. I mean, I will go to fabric shops and just drool, and I buy yards and yards of material, and I can't sew. I just love to have it, and then I like it to sort of to work off, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because
See, I would look more at the structure of the weave. You
and
see,
how
that's
they
why.
No, I would look sometimes with shot silk. You'll
Oh,
have an orange going against a blue. Fabulous.
And that changes as you move.
Yeah.
But your fabrics here are not sort of like that,
No.
are they? They're very, and they're not the way that fabric would be traditionally painted. You know, it hasn't got the folds and the drape that you see, the bit underneath there. It's the
colour and the design.
Yeah.
And I must say I'm affectionate towards those.
And there's very much the design even in the water. It's all patterned. So do you normally work in series?
I do work in series, but in drawing and in watercolours. But in painting, I'm much more about this is occupying me or something.
Yeah.
And I work in this size for watercolours and drawings, but I don't work in this size for painting?
Because I was going to ask you about that. Now
Paintings are bigger.
this exhibition is 2020, so
Yeah.
ideally it was
I found it no
20 by
trouble.
20.
I quite liked it because I do work for.
Yeah.
It's actually finding a way to frame them that doesn't make them shrink and, you know,
Yeah.
allows them to breathe. You know.
Yes, I mean, I didn't have trouble really, except with the roots, which I felt they wanted to grow a bit, and I wasn't letting them grow as much as they would have.
Ah.
Especially as the chair, I couldn't let them go over 20 by 20.
Yes, they would be, but I don't think of them as miniatures at all.
No, well, I often put work into exhibitions like the miniature textile exhibitions that are usually 12 by 12 by 12, so
Yeah.
this didn't seem
Yeah.
that way.
No,
Didn't seem.
I think they're good. I want to ask Punch a question.
Yes.
Yeah, are you pleased with the exhibition?
I'm delighted with the exhibition. Yeah, no, it's been a really interesting one to be well part of, I suppose, or to be at the final stage of thinking about how it can be hung. I mean, it's not, from a curator's point of view, it's quite challenging to hang this many small pictures.
How many? 30 artists?
There's 30 artists and makers. And you know, our hanging system is not necessarily ideal for little work, you know, particularly if you're trying to hang a group of pictures
Yes.
together. So I worry constantly about whether I'm doing them the best service with some of them. But I think as a group they look fantastic,
Yeah.
and the exhibition has had people are really liking it, and the variety of it very much so.
That's great.
But every artist that's come in, member of the group, have said at some point in the creation of what they were submitting that they struggled to sort of think how they were going to do it and how they should do it. So it's obviously been quite an interesting project for some of them to be part of, and I hope has given them something positive to think about.
Yes.
It also came at quite a difficult time, didn't it? Because I think it was only February we agreed on the exhibition, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So in most of that time they'd been in lockdown, which
Yeah.
I think after.
And then when were we going to go
Were
with
we
it?
was it definitely going to hang?
Yeah.
So there was quite a lot of issues, but they responded well, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic, and also the willingness of so many of you to come and do these conversations, bearing in mind we can't have the sort of events or proper talks in terms of inviting an audience. We've needed to be very careful about that.
But I think everything that you've put on your website has been really lovely and interesting.
Yes.
So, you know.
I mean, normally I would do an individual page per artist, but for 30 of them, I think I would swamp the website.
Yes,
so I just think it's actually better to do some pick at things like this, and that's not an indication of that somebody who doesn't do a conversation, they're not worth having a conversation with. Some people are literally not in a position to come; they're still shielding, so. But to have a nice mix of people coming to talk, and so I'm very grateful to you both. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.